fall is here, and I wanted to share a bit about what I've been working on for Ogkit for the past 2 weeks. Apparently it's already been 2 weeks since I did one of these, so I wanted to give a quick update, and mostly a technical one, I think, because I've started onboarding people more rapidly now. So everyone who's prepaid for Ogkit has been invited now to sign up and set it up, and I'm very close to inviting the rest of the wait list, which is more than 200 people now, which I'm quite excited about. Just a few more details that I want to nail before I do that, basically, but we're talking a week or two, I think, I hope. Yeah, so started onboarding more real users besides just my friend, and of course, like, kept running into little things that I didn't even consider, like emojis, which I should have known because I've had one of these products in the past. That was an easy one to solve, but it's so funny because the core idea of Ogkit is so simple. That's why it's so good. It's the beauty is how simple it is, and which is why it feels like this is just how OG images should have always worked. You know, all like social media websites and stuff should basically just be doing what Ogkit is doing when they get the site previews. But anyways, there are just so many little things that you still need to figure out, but that's kind of fun. Like, that makes it a perfect product for someone like me, who's a single person doing it as a side project, already has a job and everything, because sort of the core problem I'm trying to solve is like very scoped, but there's still a ton of stuff to do, and it feels like there's lots of ways that Ogkit can add value. Maybe before I talk some of the technical challenges I've had, because I think this episode right here is very much going to be focused on fighting the bots, because there's a lot of bots, and the good bots that are that I want to grab OG images, and they're the bad bots that I don't want to serve OG images to. I'll just talk about a little bit about the product first. I added, until a couple days ago, I just had a list of all your image generations in the dashboard, which was useful for like debugging purposes and just to kind of get a sense for what's happening behind the scenes. But I realized that it's much more exciting to see the pictures that you're actually generating. So now I'm showing like a grid of all the OG images that you've been generating, and I think it's a great way for users to see how Ogkit is adding value for them, because they see all these images being generated for them. And the next thing around that I hope to build this week is something cool that I realized that this wasn't part of the original product vision or anything like that. But the cool thing about Ogkit is it knows when your images or when your pages are being shared on social media and in private messages and stuff like that. It obviously doesn't know the context, like it doesn't know when and where, and well, it does know when, but it doesn't know where and who by who. But it knows that, you know, iMessage wanted an OG image, or Twitter bot wanted an OG image, and that's like really interesting information, I think. So I think there's a really cool opportunity to build a UI basically where you can see all these bots that are grabbing your OG images, and I think it's like an unintended cool feature of Ogkit that basically you can see like, oh, you know, one of my pages is being shared a bunch today, and normally if this was happening in like a private message or private chat group or something, you would never know. But maybe it's an indication that you're going a little bit viral, or someone found you or something like that. So I think that's really cool. And yeah, it's just like something that's gonna make the product feel much more valuable than just, you know, your good old static OG image. But yeah, the main thing that I've been working on in the past 2 weeks is definitely just like make the product better in terms of make sure the product scales and that we spend our resources on the right type of bots. Basically, a week ago maybe, someone signed up with a use case that's not technically supported right now. I've loosened up a bit though, because of what I'm about to describe now. But yeah, basically they have a website with 600,000 pages. So that's a lot of dynamic open graph images. But the rationale behind them signing up was that they don't have that much traffic, so they don't get very many social media shares. And therefore they thought it was fine. And it kind of sounds fine, but then what I realized is one morning it was just like generating images every minute, and I was like, what's going on here? And I realized that it was Amazon scraping the website, and for some reason also scraping the open graph images, and that's obviously for AI training purposes. And yeah, so it led me down this path of like, do I want that? Like, do I want AI training scrapers and SEO scrapers to scrape the OG images? I can see a little bit of a rationale maybe for SEO purposes, but where I kind of landed for now is that it's not really the purpose of Ogkit. It's not really an SEO tool in that sense. It's really like a social sharing tool. And to me, like when you have 600,000 pages, generating 600,000 images just because an AI company want to scrape those images and probably not do anything with it, because they're going to be basically the same image 600,000 times with like little variations, is like extremely wasteful. So even just from like an environmental point of view, I think it's not a good idea. So I kept thinking like, how do I actually want to solve this? Well, the first thing I did is I started maintaining more of a robots.txt file that would ask these scrapers not to scrape open graph images from Ogkit. And let me put it this way: the American scrapers read the robots.txt file. There's some other scrapers that weren't able to find it or something like that. That like basically stopped most of it, but still like there's little bots I don't know about. So like one morning I woke up and I saw that this website where it had generated 10,000 open graph images, and on the one hand it like stressed me out that someone had been like using the resources to do that basically, but on the other hand it was like I was glad to see that we generated 10,000 open graph images and I didn't have any exceptions reported in my exception tracker. So that part was cool. Then on Friday I sat down with a friend and we tried to sort of tackle this, and first we tried to come up with a solution where maybe the AI scrapers just get the generic open graph image for the site, and we started playing around with that idea. It was a little bit more complicated than we thought to sort of determine what the generic image is if the user has specified it, so it wasn't as easy as it maybe sounds. And then ultimately we just like I think I just landed like, for now I don't think scrapers need to get open graph images. Maybe I'm wrong, and then I'll figure out how to actually implement that solution. But we figured out, we spent a lot of time in Cloudflare basically, and I was just so blown away. Like I've used Cloudflare for years just for DNS and CDN stuff, but I never really touched it much. Like I just sort of enabled it and it was just there. But for Ogkit, it's starting to become really like critical piece of technology, because so many of the potential problems I see with Ogkit I can solve with Cloudflare. And it's pretty mind-blowing, and it was really fun to just like spend half a day just diving into Cloudflare and see what it can do. And we ended up creating basically a little set of rules to block those AI bots that don't read the robots.txt file. But I'm realizing there are loads of other different things we could do. And if we wanted to do something like serve a generic open graph image to bots, I have sort of a prototype version of that in my head, of how we could do that with Cloudflare, which is really cool. And I'm also realizing that if at some point I decide to enforce, some kind of rate limiting on open graph images that haven't been generated yet, like generating images basically, I could use the exact same setup in Cloudflare to just say, okay, you've generated 10 images in the past 10 minutes, so if you need an image now and it's not already generated, we'll just give you a generic one for the site instead, until sort of the rate limiting has ended, which I think is also really cool. So yeah, Cloudflare is really cool. And it's helped me feel much better about sort of scaling Ogkit, because now that I've sort of filtered out all the bots, Ogkit is running on this 600,000 page website, and they get shares and stuff every day, and a lot of it is actually happening, from what I can tell, in iMessages, which I'm not sure the founder of this company knows, but soon he will. And Ogkit is generating all those images. So that is really cool, and it makes me feel like, we can handle pretty big sites, because we just generate the image whenever someone needs it on a social media website or they're sharing it somewhere, and it just doesn't happen as often for most websites, so it's totally fine, and that's very cool. Another thing that happened is I temporarily turned off the card validator tool that I vibe coded a few weeks ago, because I was logging into my Laravel Nightwatch account, which is what I use to sort of track. It's like I can't remember the term for it, but it's like exception tracking, but it's also requests and metrics and stuff like that. And I saw that I had like 100,000 requests happen in half an hour or something like that, and it actually nuked my Nightwatch account because I was on the free tier, so I used up all my events. And at first it looked like they sent all the requests to the cart validator, and immediately I assumed that it was someone who figured out they could use it to like DDoS someone else, because the cart validator will call a URL if you tell it to. And I did have like a few different security measures in place, but just like when I was seeing those requests, I immediately thought like that was what's going on, so I just turned it off and was like, this was just a project for fun. I'll figure that out, how to make it more robust later on. Later on, I realized that they weren't actually specifically targeting the cart validator. They were just like throwing like random requests at every page on the website just to test for vulnerabilities. And some of them just happen to have like a URL parameter that is actually used on the card validator endpoint, so it's kind of random, but it still didn't feel very good. So sort of been a lot of these little things where get 10,000 image generations really quickly because of some scraping bot is just going rogue, or someone just hammering the site with 100,000 requests just to like test if I have some vulnerabilities, but all of it makes me stronger, and actually I feel really good about where things are right now, and I'm excited to invite people into the product because I feel like I can actually handle the load now. So that's a lot of what's been going on. I don't know if I shared this in the last video, but I crossed $1,000 in revenue for Ogkit, which is really nice, and it happened within the first month. And for the whole time, my goal for Ogkit was to make $1,000 a month, and I didn't expect it to make $1,000 in the first month, but it's was a really nice thing that happened. And hopefully make a bit more once I launch to the wait list and sort of go into general availability at some point. I'm not sure I have more to share right now. I'm gonna open up signups very soon. And I'm just fighting the fight with the bots and letting the good bots in and making a cool product, and it's fun. Oh, there's actually one final thing I want to mention. Speaking of product, the main thing that I worry about with Ogkit is if it's too slow right now. It's fine, but it's kind of slow and it's not like very efficient right now. Basically, every time I generate an open graph image, I start a Chrome browser, is kind of what happens. So I did like prototype a little bit with like, what if I already had or always had a Chrome browser with like several open tabs that were just ready to do screenshots. And yeah, that's totally possible. It's much faster. It just complicates the app a bit more, so I haven't done it yet because it hasn't been like an issue yet. But it's just nice to know that when I need to, I can like sit down and actually get that to work and have something that's much faster. And then basically the main, the main throttle or whatever you want to call it is how fast your site is. That's basically what's going to determine how fast the image is, because right now when I'm testing it, it takes like 3 seconds from like for the whole request to generate the image and serve it. And when I'm doing it this other way, it takes like 1 second or even less. So yeah, that would be a pretty cool thing to be able to do. Just, yeah, almost instantly reply with a generated image. That's definitely the goal. I'm not in a rush to be able to do that, but for now I just want to know that it's possible, and it is. So yeah, that was just one thing I wanted to mention as well that I've been working on. But we're getting there. Thanks for following along. And yeah, I'll give an update soon. Once I launch to the waitlist, I'll do another one of these, tell you how it went. See you later.